is the US editor at The Sun, who is in Utah at the moment. Let's get a word with Patrick Timms, who's a spokesman for Turning Point UK. Patrick, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
I mean, I made the point just in the introduction, of course, that Charlie Kirk was one of the founders of Turning Point in America. I mean, let's call it the sort of Turning Point family, if you like, for the benefit of this. This is a devastating time for everybody, but a devastating time for this organisation too, of which he was such an integral part.
Well, absolutely. And look, what I'm going to just say now is I'm a linguist. I'm a translator. I get paid for my use of words. But actually, there are no words for the anguish that people are feeling over on this side of things at the moment. At the end of the day, Charlie was a peaceful man. He believed that wars should be fought with words and not weapons. And what was he doing at the time when he was murdered? And we are clear at Turning Point, he was murdered. What was he doing? He was doing exactly that on a university campus. I knew Charlie. I met him in 2019 at a dinner. Now, he had a large operation going in America, but he also was instrumental in setting up the TPUK, as we call it, the Turning Point UK branch of that operation. Now, I worked with them for some time. I now do some ancillary work. Some people are even saying, oh, what a coincidence it is that it's happened the day before what would have been the anniversary, or is the anniversary, of 9/11. So whether that had anything to do with it. But all I can say to you is that our prayers are going out to the fact that what has happened here is a man has lost his life, a wife has lost her husband, and 2 children will now grow up without a father. And when we consider what people are apparently willing to do because they don't like the words that somebody says, this is the result. And the irony of it all is that Charlie, like I say, was a peaceful man. He always offered a platform to other people. He wanted to hear words. He would often vehemently disagree with them, and I will say that his tone and style could be a bit strident at times. But that is not a reason for a man to die.
Correct.
And indeed, we find now that other people, and I mean, look, I've been a victim of, I've spoken about this on this station before. I too have been a victim of far left violence. It didn't actually kill me, but you know, I have been a victim of that, and we have to bear in mind that for some people, we don't know. We were just talking about, as you were talking about Scarlet before, you know, we don't know the identity of the killer yet. But what we do know is that some people apparently think that disagreeing with someone is enough of a justification to murder them. Charlie never thought that, and that was why he founded the Turning Point movement, either over there or over here, in the first place.
We are in a sort of extraordinary times in terms of this kind of crass polarity of how people opine and form views. We've been throwing out the question this afternoon, Patrick, about where was the tipping point on this? How did politics become so divided? Can you shine some light, your own view, on whether there was a moment or a group of moments that collectively sort of began this grim journey where people don't just have a different opinion, they become your enemy. And if you have a different view to me, you're the Antichrist. When was that?
Well, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to refer to something that Penny Mordaunt wrote. You're going to think I'm segueing, but I'm actually not. About Brexit being, if it wasn't allowed to be a moment, it would have to become an event. Or sort of, well, there was that. There was the other way around. It can't be. If it can't be a series of moments that lead to something, then eventually there becomes an event. Now, over in the US, I think a lot of people have been have felt very badly about the re-election of Donald Trump as president, and have also found themselves not not being very comfortable with the kind of student activism that we see on campus. And in fact, that's actually what Turning Point does. It's about going out there, promoting debate, and listening to arguments. The thing with Charlie Kirk, he always listened to arguments. He was right there in a tent that says, "Prove me wrong." Okay, so this was always about listening to other people. I will say, having met him, Charlie had views that could be described as strident, and that's a polite term. Yeah. But he always listened. You're asking me when this happened. Like I say, I don't think it's an event that just happened at a particular point in time. I think there's been a progression here of people, certain people of various different dispositions, becoming less and less and less content, and eventually deciding to take action. With that said, there are no diagnoses here of what happened other than what I could only describe as genuine mental illness. I am not excusing the attacker.
Yeah,
I am not. And like I say, we are all here. I mean, in our time, as in time zone, I only started hearing about this about 10:30 last night. And since then, I've been in discussions with the leadership. Nobody really knows what to do in this kind of situation. And that's worth pointing out as well. Nobody really knows what to do. Our response is to say, I'm not even going to use silly words like "we condemn this," because it's just so plain. It's just so generic. Yeah. Obviously we condemn it. But what we don't want to see is reprisals. We don't.
Yeah, 100%. Because that can also happen at times like this. And I was looking at, at the Twitter feed where Joe Biden had offered his condolences and said there's no place for this. And I thought, well, fair play. You could argue, of course he was going to do that. And then straight away there were people commenting on that saying, wishing him dead. And I thought, well, hang on, this is ridiculous. This is you can't occupy the moral high ground saying, these people are bonkers who have these views and then simultaneously have the same view. It's this divide. It's created this curious place that we found ourselves in, and I think the left are far more guilty, by the way, by a country mile of this. It's almost in their DNA, but once in a while it does creep onto the other side too. But you're absolutely right, and thank you, Patrick, for being with us. Patrick Timms, spokesperson for Turning Point UK. It's worth saying that Turning Point USA was Charlie Kirk was one of the founders of that organisation. We'll talk to Liam in Liverpool now. Liam, how are you doing?